We're going to get some hockey in the show today. My man Dennis Bernstein drops by from SiriusXM NHL Radio, thefourthperiod.com. Get into it with him. Sam was all excited to talk hockey today, so I said, we got to get Dennis on the show, so that's what we're doing. Dennis Bernstein will hang out with us. There is some baseball news to get to. Yankees and Mets both making some interesting moves. I'm not trying to be New York-centric here. I host a show based in Las Vegas, but the two big moves in baseball yesterday were made by the Yankees and the Mets, so we will get to that coming up a little later on. A bizarre story out of the NFL involving the 49ers. The sublime and the ridiculous. We'll get to both of those. Some tennis to talk about in odds and ends, but we start things out as we always do. It's time for the big story. And the big story today leads me to the NBA, where the average ticket price, now look, wherever you are in America, your perspective is your reality. So if you're a fan of the New Orleans Pelicans, what it costs to go to an NBA game may not be the same as it costs to go to a Memphis Grizzlies game, as it costs to go to a Thunder game, a Rockets game, a Mavericks game, a Spurs game, a Heat game. It's different everywhere. Teams can price tickets where they see fit and where the demand is. And people will either pay the freight or they won't pay the freight. And that shows up when we get to the end of the year and we look at the average, attendance for some of these teams. But to go to a New York Knicks game, I want you to think about this for a second. The average ticket price for a New York Knicks game, and I'm sure they sometimes price these things different based on who they're playing, $250 to $400 per game. That's the average ticket price for a New York Knicks basketball game. Family of four, that's $1,000. Let that sink in for a second. And we're not talking about sitting in the Spike Lee seats. We're not talking about sitting in the Tracy Morgan seats or the Ben Stiller seats. We're talking about seats, somewhere in the bowl, but you're not sniffing the sweat, if you know what I mean. $250 to $400, the average ticket price. Last night, the New York Knicks played the Brooklyn Nets at Madison Square Garden. You can see where I'm going with this. The score of the game at the half was absurd. The final score was the most absurd. It was the all-time biggest rout in the history of the New York Knicks, who have been around a while. 120 to 66. I hope you took the under, by the way. Sam Yarnell did. He was thrilled about it. 120 to 66. The Knicks nearly doubled up another NBA team. And by the way, we're not talking about Murderers Row Knicks here. They had dropped 4 straight. They've been playing terrible basketball. They just had a team meeting. The Knicks have been bad. And they beat the Nets last night by 54 points, 120 to 66. The Knicks should give a refund. And I know you're going to sit here and say, wait a minute, the Knicks won. Why should their fans be mad? Why should they get a refund? There's nothing that is entertaining about going to watch a basketball game that ends in a 54-point blowout. I don't care if it's against your biggest rival, your most hated foe, if it's a playoff game, I don't care. The Knicks should get in touch with every one of those fans that they can possibly reach out to and say, here's either a ticket to another game, or here is a half a refund on your $250 to $400 on average ticket price for this particular game. We're going to give you money back. God knows the Knicks can do it. It would be the right thing to do, because I would be booing. I know this sounds crazy to people. Why would you boo? Your team won. I'd be booing because sports is supposed to be entertainment. Sports is supposed to be a distraction. Sports is supposed to be something you go and enjoy. What's enjoyable about watching a team win by 54 points? There is nothing enjoyable about what took place last night between the Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets? Nothing. The Lakers charge similar prices. If it happened in LA, I would say the same thing. In fact, there have been teams in the history of the NBA that have done stuff like this. I think the Phoenix Suns might have done it a year or 2 years ago. And it might have even been with this current ownership group, where they actually said, okay, we're actually going to give money back. We're actually going to give money back. We're actually going to give a refund to fans because what they saw tonight was so horrendous. Because the product we put out, and that's what it is, it's a product. Like anything else that you consume as a consumer. An NBA game is a product. What about that product at Madison Square Garden on Wednesday night was entertaining? I guarantee you, if we polled fans, 9 out of 10 would say, that's not entertaining. Look, everybody's sitting on their hands. It's 106-61 with 4 minutes left in the game. And if not the Knicks, the NBA should step in and do something. Now I realize this is pie in the sky. It won't happen. It won't. Because fans won't collectively be outraged enough. But there isn't anything about what took place at Madison Square Garden last night that the NBA should be happy about. You've got the Nets, who are clearly tanking, trying their best to get the top pick in a draft that is sure to be laden with some really good talent. No consensus number 1 pick yet, but certainly a draft that I think a lot of people are excited about in terms of the guys that are going to be coming into the league. And hey, maybe the Knicks get back on track with this win that they got on Wednesday night. Maybe the team meeting did something, but we all know generally that's just window dressing for things when they're not going well. And maybe it's just the midseason sort of malaise that teams go through. But fans should get a refund, because what happened at Madison Square Garden last night, not entertaining, not good for the consumer in the least. We're coming back to talk some NFL. Sam Yarnell's with me next. Welcome back to the show. Good to have you all with us on this Thursday. Coming up in 10 minutes, we're talking pucks. Dennis Bernstein, thefourthperiod.com, Sirius XM NHL Radio. We'll drop by, and I'll pretend I know something about hockey. Your Buffalo Sabres had a signing, didn't they, Sam Yarnell? Just nodding your head looks great on TV, by the way. And on the podcast, I think people probably love listening to the sound.
People love the way that nodding my head sounds, Jason.
Yes.
I've actually gotten messages.
Yeah.
I've gotten messages. Shout out to our listeners from sea to shining sea and overseas as well. They all reach out. They say, Sam, our favorite sound that comes out of your mouth, it's when you nod your head.
Thank you. Couple of weird stories out of Niners land that I wanted to get to today. It's kind of a lighter day in the news. And tomorrow we'll do a ton on the preview side for the AFC and NFC championship game. So relax. Or as Aaron Rodgers would say, RELAX, relax. Brandon Ayuk, not going to be back with the Niners. There is the sublime and then the ridiculous when it comes to the Niners that I want to get to today. Coming off this amazing season, by the way, in which they went much further than I think anybody would have anticipated considering all the injuries they had, which we'll get to in a moment because that is part of the ridiculous. Brandon Ayuk apparently will not be back with the team, according to general manager John Lynch. Not much of a surprise, though, is it?
Not at all. This is something that... If people who follow the 49ers, I'm sure 49er fans, but anyone who follows the team with any degree of sincerity knows that this is a relationship that's been on the outs since, quite frankly, the end of last season. They talked about trading him in the offseason, and then there was the fallout at the beginning of the season. He never suited up for the team. Like week 17 or something, they put him on the did not report list or something like that. It was very, very weird, a very odd situation, him going from injured reserve to now being a did not report in like week 17. Never made any sense to anyone. And now you've got John Lynch coming out and saying that he's played his last snap in a 49ers uniform. So
yes.
Just a weird situation, and quite frankly, Jason, the second one that we've seen in the last 3 years between him and Deebo Samuel. If you want to become upset in the NFL, just be a wide receiver 1 for the San Francisco 49ers, it seems.
Yes, it does seem that. Then to the ridiculous, and this is I've been reading into this whole story for the last 24 hours, ever since it sort of emerged. And it's this weird story about all the Niner injuries this year and people trying to figure out, and not even just this year, frankly, you could go back, over subsequent years and talk about it feels like the Niners are always banged up, which led somebody out there to try and come up with some crazy theory as to why these injuries have happened. And in the process, they said, well, there's this substation, this Levi Stadium electrical substation that's near the stadium that's contributing to the injuries. What's crazier than that is the fact that the Niners, Sam Yarnell, are actually looking into this as potentially a cause, talking about EMF waves, potentially contributing to all the injuries this team has had this year. I don't even know where to go with this. There have been a ton of different injuries this year. According to Over the Cap, the Niners had 20 players on a reserve list this season, accounting for more than $95 million in adjusted annual value on their contracts, highest amount in the league by nearly $20 million over second place Arizona. Okay, go.
Okay, so for people who are very online, this is a story that went viral about a week and a half ago.
Yes.
It was like January, at the beginning of January. This guy named Peter Cowan has a tweet where he talks about this electrical substation being next to the 49ers practice facility. It goes mega viral solely because the Niners have had a lot of injuries this season. Well, someone broke it down, and it turns out they actually have like the 4th most injuries this season, and the 3 teams below them have no electrical substation anywhere within a quarter mile of their training facility. The Washington Post, the great journalists, I emphasize journalists, over at the Washington Post, sports journalists, did a wonderful article that you can go and read, and where they interviewed 3 different scientists, not circadian life coaches, which is what Peter Cowan claims to be, right? They interviewed 3 different scientists, all of whom said this was, at best, improbable. So no, this has no real connection. It is very fun for we the fans to go around and blame all of the different injuries on all these different things. The fact of the matter is, it almost always comes down to athletic training staff and how much ownership is willing to invest in that. There's actually a direct correlation with how much money teams spend on athletic training staff and how little injuries they have.
I used to basically live on top of like a Superfund site over in when I lived in Brooklyn. So I'm waiting for a third ear to sprout out of my head any day now, or a third nipple or something like that to pop out of my head, to pop out of my chest one of these days. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen. Maybe this is good news for the Chiefs. If you believe in, what was once old is new again. Eric Bieniemy coming back to run the offense. What do you think, Sam?
I'm scared. I'll tell you this, Jason. It scares me. I think if there's one person that can fix everything that's gone wrong with the Chiefs over the course of the last 2 years, it's that guy. And as a fan of another AFC team, I'm terrified of the Chiefs already heading into next year.
Yeah. Last but not least, there are MVP awards and all these different things that we're finding out about today. Christian McCaffrey, the first player to be a finalist for 3 AP NFL awards in the same year, Sam Yarnell, including Most Valuable Player award. They'll announce it on February 5th at NFL Honors. McCaffrey, finalist for Offensive Player of the Year, also Comeback Player of the Year. Sam, does he win any of them, though?
He'll
Maybe
win.
comeback?
I was just thinking about that.
Comeback?
He'll win Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah.
It's nice that they put him in the race for the MVP and the OPOY, but be realistic, he doesn't have a shot at either of those.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. All right, we have hockey to talk about coming up here in a couple of minutes. Our man Dennis Bernstein fighting a cold, but he's still here to hang out with us. We're going to get his thoughts on all things hockey. The Rangers general manager recently made an apology to the team. I actually watched a little hockey last night. Watched the Kraken and the Islanders over on True TV. We'll talk some hockey with Dennis Bernstein next. Welcome back to the program. I said we would talk some pucks, and pucks we will talk. Dennis Bernstein, the only guy we do it with. Well, regularly anyway. I mean, we have occasionally sprinkled in other guys, but nobody quite like DB. I have two DBs. I have you, and hopefully next week on the show, I was just saying to Sam, we're going to have Doris Burke on the show, does a great job,
fantastic.
Hall of Famer.
She's great. She's awesome.
The DB. But Dennis Bernstein, the fourthperiod.com, SiriusXM NHL radio host, hangs out with us on the program today to talk some hockey. When we were, talking throughout the season, we were wondering when the Penguins might sort of start to trail off. It hasn't really happened that way, has it?
No, they continue to win. They're playing well. They might add at the deadline. And I think it's a combination of nobody's really stepping forward in the Metro Division other than the Carolina Hurricanes. So it's kind of they play chess and they jump pieces back and forth. But it's been a really good story because JP, that was the one team that was going for Gavin McKenna in the summertime, right? That was the team that had a distinct vision of being bad, getting the first overall pick, and finding the next Sidney Crosby, which some people think Gavin McKenna is. They changed the narrative, and it's all the old guys. Like Gino's played well, Tang's played well, Carson's played well until he's hurt, and they'd have guys like that. There's some redemption seasons there, like Anthony Mantha, who was a non-entity for like years, has a really good season, and it's been interesting. They went and got Stuart Skinner, that his numbers are any better, but they're playing well for Denaz, who you could really make a case for the coach of the year. If this roster, as old as it is, and with the holes in it, if they make the playoffs and they're a top 3 seed in the Metro, that's a great coaching job by him.
Just stay in the East real quick, and this will be the one Rangers-related question that I'll ask because they're not even worth talking about right now. GM Chris Drury, the pride of Fairfield, Connecticut, out there, basically saying we're doing a rebuild, like admitting it and actually coming out and saying it. Were you surprised by that? And how long does it feel like this process is going to take for the Rangers?
I was surprised by it because this team in October, when you looked at them, they should have made the playoffs. But Fox is hurt. Shesterkin is hurt. When they chant your name to fire you in the building, you probably have to do something. So he wrote a letter. I get it. Now, why did the moves behind the letter? That's the question. I think it was 6 years ago they wrote the first letter, and I think a couple weeks after that they won the first overall pick, and Lafreniere was the first overall pick. And Jason, he's on the third line in New York. He hasn't delivered. Right, so it's been a combination of things here. It's the right move. This is an older roster. They want to pay Panarin a lot of money. He's going to be 34 years old. I get it. I understand it. Now the question is, when you move a Trocheck, right? When you move maybe as a Zibanejad, what are you going to get in return? How are you going to make this team older and quicker? So it's just been a culmination of things. But given the age of the roster, the window's closed on a championship. So it's the right move by Chris Drury.
Dennis, real quick on the Rangers, do you think they move Panarin?
Yes, they have to. I watched it. They're cooked. They're done. They're done. They have to move him. He's not going to.
So where do you think he'll end up?
Well, there's another really good Russian winger about a couple hours south by train of New York. He actually might score 1,000 goals. I think Washington would be an amazing fit there, and they've been struggling a little bit as well. So I think that would be a fit. I would blow everybody up by saying Vegas because, just because Vegas gets everybody now, right? But it's not going to be Vegas. Maybe a team like Dallas, but I think Washington would be a really nice fit. There's been some talk here in Los Angeles about Panarin because the offense is so woeful. It's 30th in the league. But I wouldn't give up a lot of futures because, you don't want to prop up a team that is just an average team. So I think Washington, which had a really good season last year, I think that might be a nice logical fit for that team.
Dennis, a team that is certainly exceeding expectations this year. The Buffalo Sabres, my Buffalo Sabres, they fired Kevin Adams. They brought in or promoted Jarmo Kekalainen and took off like a rocket ship. What have you seen out of this organization this year? And tell me, is this the year the drought ends?
Well, I used to joke, and Jason knows this. I used to joke that every night before I go to sleep, I say a prayer for Sabres fans because it's been that long, right? And there's no connection between Adams getting fired and his team taking off. Right? It's not. You know what the connection is? Getting saves from your goaltenders. Imagine that. You get saves, you win games. And that's what's happened. UPL with Ellis, it's been this team always had talent. They finally put it together. They have 2 first overall picks on the blue line. And Power and Dahlin. Dahlin's played great. Tage Thompson has been fantastic. It's a talented team that's put it together. I think they'll make it. I really do. Now, there's some teams on the outside looking in, like a Washington, like a Toronto, that will have some say with respect to that. I don't think they're a top 3 team in the division because you look at the top 3 in the Atlantic, and I think it's going to stay that way. But this is the year. And the best thing, Sam, the building's full again because those fans deserve some really good hockey, and they're getting it right now from the Sabres.
We talked about the Rangers. Let's talk about the team across the river in New Jersey for a second, Dennis. Just as it seems like they're getting momentum, they win 4 of 5. There's another wrinkle in this Luke Hughes situation.
Unreal.
How bad is everything in New Jersey right now?
Well, I'll say it's bad, but I want to say one thing about accountability. Like, this team's underachieving. And one of the reasons they're underachieving, if you wanted to change the roster, Tom Fitzgerald, who's the GM there, he's given 13 players some level of no trade protection, which is unheard of. So you can't move these guys around. It's crazy. They've had so much bad luck with injuries. I picked them to go to the Cup final against Colorado. That's not going to happen. It's just one injury after another. It's like a cursed team. That's what it is. They're very talented. They have the goaltender. They have 2 great centers in Hughes and Nico Hischier. It's just they can't get over this injury hump. This is another impactful injury. They might make the playoffs. But even if they do, Sam, I don't consider them a threat. I'm not sure what's going on. But, Tom Fitzgerald, at least he's been accountable for the team's regression this season.
Let me get you a thought from you because before the season started, when I asked about the Panthers and the chance for a three-peat, you were kind of sour on it. You were down on that just based on the roster composition, other teams around in the East. What have you seen from them one way or another that gives you either hope or the opposite of hope when it comes to the Panthers right now?
Well, I'm in the minority, but I think they're in trouble. They're minus 14 goal differential. They don't have their best player. I saw them against the Sharks at home, and the Sharks look better and quicker. I don't think they're going to make it. I really don't. There's 34 games left. They're going to have to win, 22, 23 games. They have to climb over 4 teams right now to get to the postseason. I don't think they make it. They've played too much hockey. They're too banged up. And it's impossible to win 3. Even if they get there, Jason, this team, the way it's personally constituted, does not win the Stanley Cup. Yeah, they'll be dangerous. Yeah, they'll be, people who don't want to avoid them in the first round. This is not a Stanley Cup winning team. It just isn't. Just too many factors going on for me to think that they could be a dangerous factor with respect to a three-peat.
All right, we've talked a great deal about the Eastern Conference. Let's focus on the West. Dennis Bernstein's going to hang out with us for one more segment, and we'll get some thoughts with him. And during the break, he'll yell at me when I tell him I still have not been to a Golden Knights game, despite the fact that I know. See that look? Look at that look. I deserve it. Dennis Bernstein hanging out with us from SiriusXM NHL Radio in the 4th period. Don't go anywhere. Coming up in 10 minutes, we're going to talk about Dennis Bernstein's second favorite subject after the NBA, which is baseball. Yankees and Mets made big news yesterday. I love to do anything I can to needle our friend Dennis Bernstein.
The NBA.
Loves the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
They saw the 4 nations and they said, we're going to do that, only we're going to do it for our All-Star game. Yeah.
Great.
Come on, Dennis. Say something, please.
NBA Cup. 2 words.
Yes. Let's go.
Not quite the Stanley Cup. That's what I'm going to say.
All right. Fair enough. The Avalanche. Last time I talked to you, you were kind of concerned because the injuries were starting to mount as we were talking about this amazing season they've had. 34-5, 9 overtime losses. They have 77 points. Their goal differential's blowing everybody else out of the water. What do you see right now when you talk about sort of this historic pace they've been on?
Well, they're just running in place right now, right? There's 34 games left. They've actually played 500 hockey the last 10 games. They're 5-3-2. They scored one goal against the Ducks, and Ducks give up like 9 goals a game. Although Ducks, all kidding aside, they've been better defensively all this last year. And Ducks have won 5 straight. They're back in the playoff race in the Pacific. They're actually third place right now. It's just, don't get guys hurt. It's as simple as that. Like, they're the best team. They're the deepest team. You can't keep playing it at 800. I don't even think it's healthy to play at this pace, to be honest, Jason. You got to take your foot off the pedal. And that's the danger. In the last 34 games, the only danger with this team is I've seen it happen a lot in this league. Teams down the stretch are doing really good, that really have nothing to play for, take the foot off the pedal, and they can't get back on the pedal. Now, first round, right now, they play Utah or Seattle. That's a sweep, right? But the second round, winners of Dallas and Minnesota, which I think will be Dallas, that's the only concern about this team. If they're fully healthy, they're going to win it all. I'm going to be in Denver for the Cup final in June. That's how deep and dangerous this team is. And you watch McKinnon, even last night, when you watch McKinnon and McCarr, I think they had 45 shots on Lucas Dostal, who had a great game last night. He's the number 1 star by far. They're just so dangerous. They're almost unstoppable, Jason. So I think Bednar has a really difficult coaching job here because you've cleared everybody. Like, this is not competitive in this division. You're going to be like, how do you handle the last 34 games to get you ready for game 83?
So, Dennis, how many wins do you expect them to finish with? It's almost mathematically impossible for them to break the Bruins record at this point. But like 60 wins? What are you ballparking that right now in terms of remaining healthy enough, as you're talking about, to be a viable option still in the playoffs?
Well, Sam, I don't think it matters. They've got, 34 games left. So if they go like 25, so they'll win 59, 60 wins. Doesn't matter. That's 120 points. It's 129 points. They don't need to break. Who cares? You know what? If they want to hang a regular season banner, that's great. That's the only thing it will accomplish. You have to. Bednar's job is to prepare this team to be ready for game 83. That's all it is. So if you win 30 games I wouldn't want my team to play at the same pace. I really, because all it does is set you up like, oh, this team never loses. They're a powerhouse. They're never going to lose. You don't want to do that. I think if I was Bednar, I might play the psychological game and want my team to lose more games, saying, oh, maybe there's a little bit flaws and maybe this isn't the greatest team ever, right? I don't. At this point, it's sealed. You don't want to care about the regular season. You want to prep your team for the playoffs because it's still a very difficult route.
What does it mean? What would it mean for the league to have Macklin Celebrini in the playoffs?
It would mean a lot. It would. It would be probably one round, but it would mean a lot because Bedard's not going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. So it's and because it gets him exposed. Because here's the thing, he's great. His games start at 10:30 at night most times on Eastern time.
There you go.
And you don't get to see him. That's the challenge with Macklin Celebrini. Is that not enough people? And he comes east against the Eastern teams once a year. Right. But I saw him in LA a couple of weeks ago. Minutes ago, he overtook the game. Scored a tying goal with a minute left. Made a great play to Eklund to win the game. He's going to be a finalist for the MVP. He is in the second. That's how great this player is. It's going to be McDavid, Celebrini, and I think Nathan McKinnon is going to win it. But he is something to watch. So even if you're on the East Coast time, maybe stay up late to watch this guy play a couple times because he's really that good.
Dennis, do you ever remember a year in all of your years covering hockey where it feels like every single awards race is wrapped up with this many games to go in the season across the board, right? We know, basically already know who's going to win the Hart. You pretty much know that Schaefer's going to win the Calder. The list goes on and on. Do you ever remember a year? Yeah. Sure. Do you ever remember a year that was this similar in terms of having just about every awards race wrapped up with, 30 plus games to go in the season?
No, because like you mentioned the Bruins were a dominant team, but they were a team that was individual greatness. Here you have a team with individual greatness, so McCarr and McKinnon are going to win their awards. Right, and I don't think most fans care about the Selke, right? I think it's the 3 major awards, right? We're talking about because I do get to vote for 5 awards, and I will bet money nobody really cares about the Lady Byng, right? So those are the 5 that I award by. So for the 3 major awards, yes, it might be the earliest it's been decided. Sam, that's a great take by you. I don't recall it being there because it's usually McKinnon, Draisaitl, McDavid, or some other pops up, and it's not the case this year. There's been a nice class, and there's a good class of rookies, but Schaefer's the best one. Without question. Like he's carrying this team right now. That isn't that great. So yeah, it's a great take by you. It's probably the earliest these awards have been decided.
The biggest threat in the last minute here to the Avalanche in the West, is it my Golden Knights that I have yet to go see a game?
Yeah, because of the Rasmus Anderson ad. I think that's it. I think that Dallas, I don't believe Minnesota needs a center, and they trade for a center now. I would say Vegas. Edmonton is not the same team. They're not as good defensively. Although you never want to take Connor Liam, but I think the only team that could really knock them out would be Vegas at this point.
All right. I'm gonna go see. I will go see a game. I promise you. I'm gonna. Are you gonna get out? Are you gonna get back out here before the end of the regular season?
Yes, I'm taking my grandchildren to see the Wizard of Oz at Sphere.
You're such a good grandfather.
It's my wife. It's not me. Believe me. You think I want to? I'll be on my phone watching hockey scores. You kidding me?
You like the Wizard of Oz. You've seen it already.
Everybody loves the Wizard of Oz.
Come on. Don't knock the Wizard of Oz.
I would never do that.
Dennis Bernstein, thefourthperiod.com, Sirius XM NHL Radio. Thank you, my friend. We'll wrap things up with some odds and ends coming up 10 minutes from now. Tennis, anyone? If I look blurry-eyed today, it's because I was up until the wee hours of the morning on the West Coast, mind you, watching one particular match at the Australian Open. We'll get to that coming up. Also, what was going on with Naomi Osaka and her opponent last night? I'm going to do the one thing you're not supposed to do when you talk about women getting into a brouhaha with each other. It felt a lot like that. So we'll get to that coming up. Sammy Arnell, I am not trying to be New York-centric here when I say this, because I know you're a huge fan of New York sports and New York sports fans, New York City sports fans in particular, and the way they conduct themselves. I know you're a huge fan of that. So I do not bring this up to try and trigger you in any way. But the big baseball news from yesterday came from the two New York baseball teams. So we have to give them some love. And I know there's New York baseball fans all over the country and probably even watching us in Canada and however you may be consuming this show. The Yankees, well, we'll start with the Mets trade first because that was the way I put it into the pre-production. So let's give you Freddie Peralta. The Mets go and trade for an ace. They go and deal for Freddie Peralta, Jet Williams, and Brandon Sproat going to the Brewers, and Williams is those are considered actually a couple of good prospects. And they get back Freddie Peralta to be at the top of that rotation. And look, there's no denying it. The Mets over the last week and a half here have had a very good finish. If this is sort of the end for them when it comes to the MLB hot stove and this offseason, Sam.
Yeah, there's no doubt. They were definitely upset by losing out on Kyle Tucker.
Oh, yeah.
And they're certainly overcompensating. I mean, no doubt. The names on paper are great. Is it all going to work together on a baseball field? That is the great question. And the New York Mets are certainly not the franchise of all franchises that should be one to take risks. But hey, who am I to say anything? It's not like the team that I root for has won a World Series 30 years more recent. Oh, no, never mind. That's only very true. Here's the thing, right? From a Brewer standpoint, they play such chess up there in Milwaukee. They really, really do. You have to look at what Corbin Burns did, right? I think that's the only maybe Brandon Woodruff stayed around for a long time within this new era of Brewer baseball. It feels like the Corbin Burns ousting, I should say, is the most comparable. And I mean, look, he went to Baltimore and finished fifth in Cy Young and had a sub-3 ERA. I think that's probably the ceiling for what he could do. I think the floor is probably Corbin Burns this past year, who made 8 starts. The thing about Milwaukee is, and you have to understand this when trading with them, they right now are the Tampa Bay Rays of the National League. I've been saying it for a year, man. All they do is outsmart teams in terms of players. So, I don't know. It feels like the Mets are stepping on a landmine, but that might just be because I have the perception that the Mets do that every year, just like they did at the end of last season, Jason.
Can I just say I'm psyched? We're like less than a month from baseball season, and the World Baseball Classic is like right around the corner. And the same way Pat McAfee likes to go, we love football, and football's the greatest thing ever, and they talk all, meatheadish on their show about football. I feel the same way about baseball. It just can't get here fast enough. As much as I am lamenting how bad the Yankees offseason has been, and it's been bad, when the best thing you've done is bring back one of the players you had on your roster last year, I have lots of reasons to not be happy about the baseball. I can't wait for baseball to start.
But
Sam.
I think I would normally agree with you. Like every other season, I would have agreed with you. It just feels like going into this season. There's a cloud. There's a big dark cloud looming over everything, and like
I get it.
Yeah, like maybe there's some solace and appreciate it while you still have it, but. I don't know. It's just this season more than any, and having you and I talked about this for a couple of years that this would ultimately be the case. Yeah. This season more than any just feels tainted almost.
You more so than me, so I'll give you credit. You've talked about it a great deal. The Yankees, as I mentioned, are bringing back Cody Bellinger, and apparently the market for Cody Bellinger wasn't as good as the market for Cody Bellinger thought he was going to get. And not that I'm crying for the guy. He's getting 5 years and $162.5 million. But he thought he was getting more, and I think he thought there was going to be more bidders. And it's always interesting when these things happen, as they sometimes do, where the market just doesn't bear out what a lot of these guys think they're going to get, Sam.
Yeah, listen, if I'm a Yankee fan, I'm actually very happy with this move. And obviously,
I'm
Cody
not.
Bellinger,
I'll tell you why, but go ahead.
He's coming off of his second highest WAR season. Mm-hmm. Aside from, what a lot of people argue is one of the best seasons, like top 30 individual seasons in Major League history. I don't know, man. It feels like Cody Bellinger is a guy who the Yankees can be what they wanted Juan Soto to be. Not the MVP contender, but he can complement that lineup the way that they need. I don't mind this signing at all.
I don't mind this signing, but my problem is the Grisham signing that they had earlier in the offseason, because they are stunting the growth of Jason Dominguez. They have screwed this kid up from the moment they've brought him up.
That's true.
And I'm telling you, I hope he perseveres and goes somewhere else and is a huge star, and they wind up living to regret the way they have handled Jason Dominguez, because the Martian has not been handled properly by this organization. And it's not the first prospect that they've done this with, where they've screwed it up royally. So I hope things work out. We're coming back. More Sports Wrap odds and ends are next. Just about time to put the wraps on this Thursday edition of Sports Wrap. On Friday, as always, my friend Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, will hang out with us. Get some thoughts with him on the top stories of the week. Some of the good, bad, and ugly from the week in sports. Before we go, a couple of reminders. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. Available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show Monday through Friday in its audio form. It works well even when Sam is just nodding his head on camera and forgetting that it is actually an audio podcast as well. So make sure to go and subscribe to that. 45 minutes, it's there for you every day, early in the afternoon. Also, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. This is the place for all things Sports Wrap. We have the Monday through Friday TV version of the show available early every afternoon. It is there for you. Go and check it out. It's got all the wonderful things you love about the TV version of the show, and it's available on YouTube. Commercial-free, Monday through Friday. In addition, on our YouTube channel, we also have Sports Wrap Shorts. These are 1 to 3 minute long verticals. They're easy to consume. They're quick. When news breaks, sometimes we can't get it into the show because the show has already been sent out to our TV affiliates all over the country. This is why we have Sports Wrap Shorts. News breaks, we're right there on YouTube with Sports Wrap Shorts to give you the story analysis quick and easy. Go and subscribe to Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel and check out Sports Wrap Shorts. We cover the biggest stories, the biggest games every day. Also, Sports Wrap Shorts available on our TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, you guessed it, SportsWrap Jason Page. And without any further delay, on this Thursday edition of the show, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. Let's talk tennis. Wow. What a performance from Stan Wawrinka last night. The Swiss Dynamo, who has 3 majors, by the way. He's won 3 of the 4 Grand Slams. One of those is the Australian Open. Stan Wawrinka is 40 years old. He's just a couple of weeks shy of his 41st birthday. And Wawrinka last night, in 5 sets and 4.5 hours, beat Arthur Gaya at the Australian Open in the second round. This was a thoroughly entertaining match. If you're wondering why I'm blurry-eyed today, I stayed up until like 1 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast, which means if you were on the East Coast, you don't have any idea this match even took place. Wawrinka was down 2-1 in the match. He comes back, wins the final 2 sets, the final set in a tiebreaker, and gets the win at the age of 40. This was so impressive, what he did in this match last night. At the age of 40 to go 5 sets at the Australian Open. Now, what I will say also about the Australian Open, this weekend's going to be very interesting because the temperatures over the first week of the tournament have been wonderful. In the 70s, it's great. It's going to get into the 1-teens down in Melbourne over the weekend. And for Wawrinka, who played this match on Friday, he's going to have to play on Sunday. I don't know how a 40-year-old recovers from a 5-set match and then goes and plays in 110-plus degree temperatures. Good luck to Stan. It's his final year of competitive tennis. He's healthy, and here's hoping he can get on a run at one of these majors and make everybody smile a little bit. From Stan Wawrinka to the ridiculous from the Australian Open on Friday in Melbourne. I know. Or Thursday? Maybe it was Thursday because, yeah, we're doing the show on Thursday, so it was Thursday. Sorry. I'll get it right. So you had Naomi Osaka against Sorana Cîrstea last night over in Australia. And you could see here, Cîrstea, who's playing in her final Australian Open, I think she's like 34 years old, she was grumpy because you had Naomi Osaka out there, and she's trying to pump herself up, and Naomi Osaka is yelling, "Come on," in between points, and I think at some point even in between serves. Now, I don't know everything about tennis etiquette. I played in high school, and I was on the high school team. I mean, I represented. I know how to play the game. I've hit some balls with our friend Patrick McEnroe, and I don't think I embarrassed myself too badly. But yelling "come on" in between points to try and pump yourself up, or even in between a serve that goes astray for your opposing player, I never knew that was like a faux pas, that you couldn't do that. But apparently you shouldn't. Osaka won the match and afterwards had a icy handshake at the net with Cîrstea. Here's Osaka after the match. Watch for yourself.
Sorana Cîrstea is a tough competitor. She came to play tonight. What did it take to get through that one?
Apparently a lot of come-ons that she was angry about, but whatever. I mean, I tried to play well. I think I hit a lot of unforced errors, but I tried my best. She's a great player. I think this was her last Australian Open, so... Okay, sorry she was mad about it, but...
Yeah. I don't know. Look, you might want to go after Naomi Osaka, and she apologized for the way she answered that question at the end. I have no issue with her trying to pump herself up during the match. You do what you have to do to motivate yourself. Be happy. You're in Melbourne, Australia. We got to go. Thanks to Dennis Bernstein, Sam Yarnell, all of you at home for watching. I'm Jason Page. That's Sports Wrap. We'll see you tomorrow. Hi there, I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got Sports Wrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half as exciting. They're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.